Good morning. So this morning we thought we'd have a quick discussion about apps. They're getting really much more important. There's thousands out there now, and we just thought we'd go around the team and talk about our favourite apps and how often we use them. Matt, do you want to start?
Okay, so do I have a favourite app? I think it's difficult to nail it onto one. I'll highlight a couple that I like. First is the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler from Netronic. So if you're a manufacturer, it's a Gantt-based kind of visualization of production, where it started out as the planner in effect manually moves the jobs around on their planning screen, but it's progressed and it progresses every 3 months, and in effect we've got now some tools in there where it helps the planner and it can help that scheduling. Press of a button and it can do a pretty good initial schedule, basic of the whole production schedule, and I like it because it's visual, which probably brings me on to my second one as well, which is the second one I like is there's one called Sales Order Status from Kuma Vision. I only found this a few weeks ago. I like it because it's simple. And again, visual. So there's something there, obviously, that I like things that look visual. Basically, what it is a list of your sales orders with a few columns about different statuses. So, availability, warehouse, picking, shipping, and invoicing. And what you get is basically a traffic light for each of those statuses. So you can look at your sales orders and understand where in the process it is very easily. And if you've got something which is partially processed, so you've got one line shipped and one line not, it will be orange, and then you can click on it and you'll see all the lines of your sales orders, and you see the relevant colour traffic lights again against each line of the sales order. So very visual. Both of those apps, very quick to install, very quick to get up and running, which is, and visual. So that's why I like those.
And I think BC has criticism sometimes that it's very Scandinavian. It's very kind of it's not very colourful, is it? Frankly,
no.
And this, using colours to indicate kind of where things are at. I know the Netronic, you can change the colours according to whether things are late or whether things are different categories of items are different represented in different colours.
Material availability as well. It's really useful to be able to visualise that.
Yeah, because if you're presented with rows and rows of, production order routing lines in a grid, it's not that easy to kind of manipulate them and change the start end date so they all line up, is it?
Yeah.
So I think Netronic is pretty much mandatory if you want to do your scheduling, production scheduling on BC. I can't see how anybody can do it without it.
I think if you don't, you're going to end up with something linked through to the data, probably doing it in Excel or a physical planning board where you're having to manually go and change it all around. You need something as a manufacturer, so why not do it within the system?
And I think your two as well. Illustrate, Netronic does have a cost. It's a few £1,000, but the value, I'd say the value is there. But I think the Kuma Vision one, do you know what the cost of that one is?
It's free.
So two ends of the spectrum, huh?
Yeah.
So just illustrates what is available in AppSource and the fact that you can find some quite nice things, but maybe not quite so critical things that are free.
Yeah.
Liam, which one have you got? Which one are you picking?
So I'm picking an app that we've designed. So it's called Clever Credit. If you bring the salesperson into the conversation, I'm going to try and push something of ours. But the reason is that not just because it's one of ours, but I love the fact how proactive it is. When you're normally thinking of chasing money, which every company needs to do, you normally, obviously try and get that cash in, but you've potentially got a problem if people aren't paying you. And the thing I like about Clever Credit, as well as giving you all the tools as a credit controller to set tasks and reminders to go and chase money and when money's been promised, it actually stops the problem getting worse if it gets to a certain point. So those sales documents would be held. So we've created a new feature in Business Central where they'll hold the sales document. So you can't keep compounding the problem, and the debt gets bigger and bigger if they've overshot the credit limits or there's a problem. Now that doesn't mean people can't then get them approved to get released and keep the business coming in if there's a conversation going on or cash has been promised or whatever that might be. But it does stop the problem getting worse and worse. And I think in the current situation where we find ourselves all working remotely, that's really useful because a sales team that are selling might not be aware from talking to the admin team that there's a problem. And from that point of view, I think it's very useful when we're remote that you get all that visibility within Business Central. It'll stop people making mistakes and adding stuff. And I think that's really, really crucial at this moment in time. So for me, that's one of the apps that I think is my favorite app at this moment in time. And when you've talked or Matt's talked about, scheduling apps and other bits and pieces, they're quite specific to an industry. I think everybody that uses Business Central will have that issue of making sure their cash comes in. And so it's an app that's universally appealing to everyone that uses the product.
Yeah, I think it's cool that the credit control diary where, if money's promised, you can put that promise on. And if it arrives, it cancels the follow-up. But if they don't do what they promised, you get a prompt to kind of go ring them again and chase them up. It just helps credit controllers do their job, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's built into the role center for those guys, so they get it on their their live tile or whatever it's called. Though it's nice to see that on the role center as well. So like you said, and it'll change if that money comes in and it's paid. Bang, one of your tasks disappears off your list of to-dos.
Great, Liz, your turn.
Well, I'm going to go into the battle of the schedulers with Matt because I'm going to go for Dime. So when I decided on my app, I decided to go for something that I use every single day and I can personally vouch for the difference that it makes. So my planning tool is more resourcing, so it's more people than product. Dime is an app which allows, it's a visual scheduling app, but it's more based around resources. It can be used for assembly orders, for production orders, but we use it internally for resource scheduling. So it allows, but prior to using Dime, we were relying entirely on Outlook calendars for scheduling. So that meant that when you wanted to book a job, you basically had to go through all the calendars for all the different people to find a slot. The Dime will allow you to see that on screen, to see all the available resources, to see the available resources based on skills as well. So to be able to filter down the available resources based on the skills that you need or the geographical location. And when you it integrates with either service orders or with jobs. When you have a job and when you book it, it returns that information back into Business Central. It also can update the resources Outlook calendars. So from their point of view, they don't need to look at Dime. They can just look at their Outlook calendar, which they're used to doing anyway. It can also update timesheets for resources. So if any of you have the same issue as me in chasing and getting people to update timesheets or visit reports or anything like that, then it can assist with that as well. Again, it's great because it's a visual tool. It takes away the grey BC or nav screens and goes into a nice tool. It allows you to drag and drop activities and it updates Business Central in the background. So actually a planner doesn't really need to even use Business Central. They can just use the Dime site.
I feel like
the way...
Sorry, James. I just felt that we've given the Scandinavian, especially the Danish people, a bit of a battering today with their bland applications at the base of Business Central. So I was just going to make an apology to those guys, but I'll let you carry on. Sorry.
Hey, it's got more colours than when it was nav. There was blue and grey and black with the three colours for a lot of years. But at least we have got some graphs and different things in the base application now. So it is better than it was. But yeah, I think that visual kind of recognition is much easier. Dime, putting all of the jobs wherever they've got to be on a map, on a Google kind of map style layout, so that you can see geographically where they are and allocate them to different engineers and so on is just ace.
Yeah, and it being able to filter by particular skills. And yeah, it just makes it all much easier. But remember, the Dime is just a framework. It's not. It doesn't have its own processes. It doesn't have its own database. It's just showing you information that's already within Business Central and feeding information backwards and forwards. So you're not holding a whole separate database, which potentially has to match back to your Business Central database. It's just a tool which is a visualization.
Netronic and Dime are both like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's a real kind of structure of the way apps should be going forward. The basis of a modern app is actually it doesn't kind of transfer everything out, have its own database, and then have to transfer everything in.
Yeah, you don't have all those integration problems. It exists there, but it doesn't exist there. It's one central source of data.
Although in Netronic, you do have simulations, so it's probably slightly different. That it's all in BC. You take a copy of your production schedule, you work on that, and then you push it back to the actual tables. But that allows you to have multiple simulations at the same time. Hence why it was built.
Yeah, I mean, Netronic is much more manufacturing and production planning based. Dime is resources. It integrates with your holidays and your absence requests. Much more resource based. Whereas Netronic's much more production planning. So two different tools, both great tools, but for two different purposes.
Yeah, and actually, we see clients who potentially are going to use both, because if they manufacture a product and then schedule the install of it, and I think that's a case of you get so much more benefit by using the right tool for the job.
Isn't
for that person,
isn't that what we were saying about apps? You use the right tool for the job. You don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole. You use the right tool for the job because it's efficient to do that, and it's easy to do that. It's just spin it up and it goes. You don't need to build 15 new servers. It's all in the cloud and you just spin it up.
And I think that's that brings me on to my pick of app, which again I'm completely biased because it's one of ours. It's Clever Handheld for warehousing, which is just ultimately focused on people who work in warehouses and what they need to do. So it doesn't even attempt to do mobile apps for anywhere else. If you go outside the warehouse, it's not for you. But if you're doing receipts, doing putaways, doing picks, whether they're inventory picks or warehouse picks, that's what it's designed to do. And it's designed to really shave seconds off each individual transaction, because what we find in the distribution area is, you've frequently got quite a number of people. It's not unusual to have 15, 20, 50, even 100 plus people working in that warehouse. And actually, if you can shave just half a second off a transaction, when you multiply that up by the number of people and the number of times they're doing it during the day, that adds up to quite a number of hours and people very quickly. So very efficient, very flexible, completely built for the event kind of environment we're in now. So you can plug into it and customize it in any way, shape or form you want. Any warehouse transaction that you want to do, you can do on that device. As the competition is Taslit and Mobile Nav, it's Android based, so you can have it on your mobile phone as well as the specialist devices. But the specialist devices, particularly with the barcode scanners that now support 2D, mean rather than having to scan this and then scan that and then scan something else, you can just have one barcode that scans them all. And even going through to using some of the advanced Android features like, voice recognition. So actually, where voice in a warehouse used to be an extremely expensive option for some of the advanced WMSs out there, that brings it right down to just that it can tell you the next bin that you need to go to before you've actually completed the last transaction. So that in effect, as soon as you've picked the stuff up, you're still scanning it as you walk down the warehouse floor, but you're on the way to the next bin, which again is all about saving that few seconds. I think the commonality with all the apps that we've got is, install them from the AppSource and I know you can get going very quickly. And I think that's, we're not, what's a real change is these add-on products. it's not days worth of setup time these days, is it?
No, and it used to be that the cost was quite prohibitive for smaller organisations for these types of technologies. Not only the software itself, the setup and the install, the devices to run it on. So does this make it much more accessible to lots and lots of different organisations rather than just the big warehouses?
Well, I think, with one of the things we discussed in the previous podcast of about CSPEP, where you have your maintenance plan, whatever plan you're on now, you've got a way of getting a SaaS environment, even if you don't use it as your production environment. And, even if you're just using that SaaS environment to spin up a sandbox in 5 minutes, that's all it takes. Mm-hmm. And then try out these apps. You get the chance of trying them out. Now, if we'd gone back 5 years and you'd wanted something like Netronic or something like Dime, we used to turn up, show it to the customer, do a demonstration, go through hours of questions, because actually if they wanted to try it out, how many days worth of dev time was that?
Well, yeah, and you'd need to build a server. You'd probably need a dedicated server.
And not everybody would offer demo licenses either. And because that became complex.
Yeah, demo licenses were unusual, weren't they? You didn't used to be able to get demo licenses. Now trial licenses and demo licenses are quite common, and it's the best thing to do. Get it installed, try it out, get some feedback.
Yeah, we used to, from a sales side, we used to get asked for, proof of concepts all the time. And you said, you've got your environment, you've got your demo data in your test environment. Yeah. You can put it in. You can have a good general feel of it. Don't get me wrong, it's not working within 5 minutes on the more complex apps, but you can do all those things that were prohibitive, like you said, James, just a few years ago.
Well, your proof of concept, Liam, is paying for a little bit of consultant for somebody to show you how you might want to use it, rather than necessarily get to the point where actually you can just turn it on. And I think that's a real game changer.
Yes, you install the app, but you've then got the second bit in terms of how do you need to then get it on a device. I mean, James, do you want to talk through how you do that? Because that's great.
Well, if you've used anything like, an Amazon Fire Stick, or, in the UK, we've got BBC iPlayer, where it comes up with a code on the screen. That's a barcode. And so you just use the device to scan that barcode, and it connects it to that specific BC instance. So going from having a blank device, if it's your phone, you download the app from the Google Play Store. As soon as you go into it, it comes up, what's the code? Go into one BC screen, puts a code on screen, that's valid for 20 minutes. So you type that code into your phone, and your phone is connected. And actually, dare I say, I'll have a little pop at Microsoft here and say, if the standard Microsoft BC phone client did that, it would be a lot easier for a lot more people would use it. Is that, am I being unfair with that?
No, I agree.
So I think, apps are definitely direction of travel for me, and we're seeing more and more of them out there. I'm not saying that every app out there is quality, but I think it's well worth going and having a look and finding them out, and just seeing whether they can just bring a little bit, especially like you say, there's a lot of different cost points out there. Some of the stuff might be free. So go and see what's out there and try it out.
And you on AppSource on the marketplace, you can filter for free apps as well. So if you want to go and see what's there that you can use for free, go look.
Yeah, the filtering and the searching particularly seems to have got better. They've revamped the layout, and I think there's lots of improvements still on the way, but it's a lot better than it was.
Yeah, I noticed the real-time searching had popped up. When you start typing now, it's filtering as you go through, which is better if you're looking for something specific. AppSource is getting there. You've also got the review system. I wish more people would leave a few reviews on those apps that they're using.
Yeah, if you use one of our clever products, leave us a review.
Yeah, please do.
I think go on and put a review on anything, whether it's good or bad, because there's very few apps on there with more than 1 or 2 reviews at the moment, isn't it? And I'm always suspicious if there's one good review, it's from the publisher, because that would be a natural thing to do, wouldn't it? But so that would be good. Okay, thank you, people. Great. I think we'll. This is something we'll come back to, because I'm sure in 2 months' time we'll all have a different favourite app as we find something new, and it excites our interest. Thank you.
Thanks,
you,
James.
everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.